Greetings and salutations, exiles. So, in this video, I want to discuss a few things. Mainly, I'm always on the fence. I've been doing these videos, not a guide. I don't know if you follow that or not, but I do these not a guide videos. They've done such a good job recently with the content, the repolishing of some of the, I've been doing YouTube videos on Conan for over a year, and it started out. If this is your first time kind of tuning in and watching some of my content, it really started through kind of a wish list series, let me recant that statement. It really started where I would come across a glitch or a bug or some type of, not necessarily an export, but where something was broken and it was too hard to try to articulate that in a paragraph and put it on the forums. And ultimately, another downside is with the forums, you run into these issues where people post so much stuff, a lot of it becomes convoluted. But if I just do a video and I talk about what the problem is, and then I show it, like I show that this building block won't snap to this building block, but if I put a staircase next to it, I'm able to double layer two walls within the same occupied space, and how it's kind of a glitch. And so, and it's or if buildings, if you place down a furnace and then it meshes through the wall, and somebody can loot the furnace that because the its model clips through the wall. Obviously that's a modeling mesh problem with either the furnace or the wall, and that's kind of how I started this. Um, and so it evolved from posting bugs or posting problems, and then it evolved into a wish list where, if you go to my playlist, you'll see I've put together this wish list of videos where I've come across stuff over the period of time, that I wish they would do. And if, like, for example, over here, I talked about these cages, right? They have these cages that are in the game, and I love the idea. In fact, I would wish they would flush this out significantly more. I wish that not only do they have these bone or these stick Dafari cages, I wish they would do like steel banded cages, like more elaborate. And then, you could take your thrall and then, let's say you just leave your thrall in there. You don't have, he's unconscious, and let's say you have a gate on this side. You just run in there and maybe you run out the other side and then you hit E while he's laying on the ground. And I do a video where I try to test this out. I try to snap this cage over the thrall, and that's one of my wish list items. That's one item that I wish they would kind of give a little bit more depth, because I'm all about the immersion. There's a few games out there that really kind of define a genre. Like Skyrim is one of them. Skyrim, it's really a work of art. It's a masterpiece, and it was kind of developed on the cusp of an existing technology. If they would have engineered Skyrim today, they would be able to do so much more. But what they were able to do with that version of hardware and system requirements, because that came out on the 360, and the limitations of what that system could do compared to what we have as far as RAM capacity, RAM speeds, hard drive, SSDs, all that's come along after the fact in the last 10 years almost. Skyrim came out in like 2011, so here we are, 8 years later, and okay, 7 years later, and everything has pushed forward exponentially in the hardware application and in coding and software, and platforms. And we got DirectX. I don't even think DirectX 11 was out then. And so just to kind of on that topic, I have developed wish list based off of nearly 20 something years of playing PC video games and just a lot of real world life experiences. That's about that reality and that immersion. So if I could put thralls in this cage, that would be pretty badass. They can flesh out, they can make this game significantly better by just tweaking little aspects. So if you see something you like out of my wish list, anybody is welcome to post on the forums like, hey, this guy has a really good idea about his wish list. Like, I don't monetize my channel. I'm not one of these guys who tries to do a video and and then what he does is he'll follow the trend of what is popular. And like I'm pretty passionate about Conan. I enjoy the lore of the Conan. It's one of my favorite movies. My top three favorite movies are Big Trouble in Little China, Conan the Barbarian, and Terminator. And there are some common denominators in those movies. Also, I'm a big fan of Dune, Battle for Arrakis, and probably Blade Runner is in that same. But there are certain one thing is those movies were all kind of filmed in a time where things didn't have to be politically correct, where men were actually men, and roles were defined in society, and I like that. I like that the story, the CGI really wasn't even in its infancy at that point. It existed, but it just really wasn't they still use like clay animation and stuff on some of that stuff. But anyways, back to my original topic. I I I like to showcase items, but I don't. So I've evolved from the bugs to the wish list to not a guide and then to discussion and thoughts. And this video is a discussion and thoughts video. And but when I do not a guide, it's I really have an issue with telling you where everything is at. I it the whole there's so many YouTubers that are not passionate about what they're doing videos about, or they don't play. I could tell some of these YouTubers, they log into their single player game and they make their content, and their definitions and their perception of the game is based off their single player experience, and that is not realistic of Conan at all. Like Conan really exists on that multiplayer server, and it really exists on the PvP multiplayer server, because when you dive into the PvE, you eliminate a third of the game. Like, you just completely lock out a third of the game and its capabilities. So when I do my not a guide, I'm really trying to in my mind come up with how much do I want to tell about this, but still keep the mystery alive, still keep the immersion and the concept. And so I'm gonna do a not a guide video for this. What is it? The Sobek armor, and I really like this stuff, but I'm gonna do not a guide, and I don't know if I should say where it's at, or if I should say because it's too easy. I mean, there's 30 other videos out there that people talk about exactly where to get it and what to do, and I'm still trying to find that art of how much I want to say. How much. So I think the way that I'm going to go about this is I'm going to talk about the systems, because most of my content for those guys who've been around for 6 months or so, and um, they really understand. I speak to the systems, how things actually work. I get into the AI, and so I think I'm going to continue to speak to the characteristics and the systems of the armor, and maybe I'll speak to the general uh, area of which it is comes from, but I'm not going to give the dungeon name, or I'm not going to say which boss it drops off of. Um, I'm just going to speak to its characteristics, and so I'm going to close this video out as just kind of a channel update, discussion, and thoughts. And I'm going to do a couple follow-up videos. And as you guys know, I don't do any editing whatsoever. I prefer to play and then just do kind of off the cuff. And so sometimes it can be really interesting, and sometimes it can be mildly retarded. But as always, criticism is always welcome. Sometimes I get a laugh out of them. I think I'm like, yeah. But always like, subscribe, and leave. You don't even need to subscribe. Just leave criticism. You know what I mean? Just fill in with what you think, your thoughts. All right.